You knew I was in a colony, didn't you?
I was in here thinking, he's going to call on me. I'm thinking, what do I say?
Right. So I'd love to just get a little feedback because you brought some heat to the table last week. What would you say? Something you noticed, something that you were able to incorporate?
Let me think here. Really, what I've been trying to do is do the assumptive close and really come to the table as a 10. So that's something that I've been trying to do because you start doing these, 80 calls a day and you get a bunch of no's. If you do that days in a row, it starts to kind of wear at you. So I've kind of been trying to do a mental check, make sure that my tone's coming through as a 10 through the phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm going on vacation next week, and I've got a short month. And I started out pretty strong the first week, but I've been having a rough kind of last really 2 weeks. So just trying to keep that mental attitude going and try to lead with liabilities, and I'm just not hitting on the right ones yet. So.
Sure. Well, we're going to address a lot of that stuff, getting into the actual delivery, establishing the rapport and then diagnosing the needs before we even get to build value. We're going to talk about some of those things today, well, a lot of those things. So you said something interesting. You're going on vacation, right? And one of you, remember step one. What's step one?
Yeah, I don't have my notes.
No, there's a lot of pressure. Step one, shifting your focus, right? The second half of what we talked about last week, shifting that focus. And you may be a little preoccupied thinking about that vacation, right? Thinking about that short month, thinking about all of these different things, but not shifting your focus at that time and place. And you did bring up another thing, it wears you down, right? 80, 100 calls a day. So that mental check at the beginning of the day, right? Preparing, getting ready, all of the other stuff falls into place if you're there, right? 80% mindset, 20% skill set. So again, awesome. Thank you for sharing. Does that make sense? Are you tracking with me, Don?
Yeah, it does. It does. I've kind of put my vacation out of my mind. It starts Friday, but I've put it out of my mind, and I've try not to get, in that downward spiral of, man, you are just not going to make it, knowing that I'm not going to make it this month because it's short, and I'm already short on some of the sales. So I've just kind of tried to be positive, like it's going to happen.
Right. You got to be positive because if the activity's there, it will happen. It's not every month you don't crush it. It's sales, right? It can go up and down, and we can't let the lows get us too low. We can't also let the highs get us too high. We got to maintain that kind of steady Eddie approach and that focus. But again, back to what we can control, right? Getting that mindset in the morning, having that pre-game routine, suiting up and getting ready. You guys are AV gladiators. Suiting up and getting that gladiator suit on and going out there day in and day out is a grind. But it's also a different deal than a lot of folks have. They just check in, make their $12 an hour and leave, right? You guys have the opportunity to make a lot more based on how you do. So we definitely want to give those, facilitate with those tools, and this is, that's what'll help you get there, that foundational piece.
Hey, would you mind telling me where I can find the material so I can follow along? I know there were some handouts.
So you guys, I don't think I can, my screen doesn't show as we're about 120 on right now. So this looks like Neil's going to be in there in a sec. Okay, so let me jump over here. I'm going to put, and everybody can see my screen. Can you see my screen, Don?
Yeah.
Okay. Raise your hands if you guys can see my screen. I want to make sure everybody has access. You should see my vaults right now. Okay, perfect. All right, thanks everybody. Perfect. Yeah, there we go. I got what I asked for. I got a million hands up. So, perfect. So you may have noticed it's reformatted. We launched 2.0 this weekend. We were in Encinitas, California, working on this with the development guys. So it's reformatted. Looks a little different. The content, there's some added content, and then what we were talking about, all of those worksheets, etc., are going to be specifically in Sales Vault, right? So you'll go to My Vaults when you log in. If you don't have your login for Agency Vault, ask your agent. They have it. There's one login for everybody, okay? We did that to save your agent some money, so they don't have to pay for extra licensing and all. You go in, log in, get their password, and everybody shares this. So you can have multiple LSPs logged in at the same time. You're going to go to Sales Vault. You're going to go to Enter Vault. For last week, we did Prepare and we did Step 1. So in each category, you have the video training, which is similar to what we're doing live here. And we may even swap out what we're doing and actually put it in here also. But if you, may have been going too fast. Once you click on each lesson or each step, there's your choices, right? Training or templates, scripts, and worksheets. Templates, scripts, and worksheets is going to be your home for all of this material. So the 7-step process, right? That's, I'll just pull it up. That's this guy here, right? This is your framework. Like this is the 7 steps plus your preparation pre-step, right? So this sheet is your outline. It's your framework. It's everything that you're going to go over just have it. Print this out. Have this at your desk. And again, that's in the templates, scripts, and worksheets. And then there's the actual worksheets to help follow along with the lessons. Now, we've also uploaded into the webinar these handouts, which you can also follow along, print out, move over to a separate screen. It doesn't let me show you what the control panel, but in the same place where you raise your hand or you chat, there is a part that says handouts. There's 5 loaded in there. And for today, we have the framework, right? The thing I just showed you. We're going to have the Build a Wall cheat sheet. We're going to have the Diagnose Needs worksheet, the Establish Rapport worksheet, and then the Diagnose Needs questioning strategy. So we'll have all of that there. Does that help answer the question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it's basically, we made it easy in that we want to include the stuff in the webinar so you can pull it down, but it's always available in here. And you guys will also have access to the full webinar, so you can always replay it. I'm going to show you where that is. If you go into My Vaults, you scroll down. Oh, I don't have it in here. You'll have a box that'll say LSP Cohort 1, because all of your agents are in the boot camp. So that'll show up down below underneath the coaching call replays. These are the bi-weekly calls, which is a separate thing. That's included with Agency Vault. So lots of material, lots of things to go over here. Looks like Neil got hung up. So I'd like to go. It looks like we have about 140 on here now. So perfect. Can I get a raise of hands? I was asking before. We had several folks. We had almost 200 on last week. I'd love to hear a takeaway. Crystal, you did answer. Why don't I pull you on? You okay, Crystal?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here again. Congratulations. Why don't you? Tell me a little bit about your takeaway and how you've incorporated that this last week here. You there? Crystal? Uh-oh. Did we lose her? You there, Crystal? Lisa, let me pull. Let me see. Crystal's phone went on mute, so looks like I lost her. Anybody else, raise your hand if you would be able to just share with the group something that you've incorporated, something that you took away, something you noticed from last week that would be that you can integrate and be beneficial. Looks like Nancy Humphrey, you have your hand up. You there?
Yes,
Nancy?
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good. And yourself?
Doing excellent. What can you share something with us on this?
Well, the first thing I did, I went into the vault and I printed out up to step 3.
Okay.
So I reviewed it. I looked at it, and this past week I've basically been doing more as an advisor, or instead of just trying to figure out how many discounts I can give them to bring the price down. So advising them more and to suit their insurance needs, and showing them the value of why, breaking down more, like, your home, your auto, everything you have, you can lose it if you don't have the correct coverage, and not making them feel like uncomfortable or pressured to buy.
Right.
So they look like they were more relaxed and more open with me.
Right.
Because I basically just like shut up more and let them tell me what's going on, how they feel, and try to understand, and try to help them step by step. Okay, that's your concern. Let's work on this, and that's it's helped me, and it's basically just trying to win their trust first. That I'm here to advise them. I'm not just trying to sell them something.
Right. So you jumped ahead. You're already getting good at that, Nancy, at establishing rapport. It sounds like you're doing a little bit of diagnosed needs, which we're going to get into even more detail on, which will be provide even more help. So let's speak to your preparation. What, before you even get on the calls now, was there a shift in kind of your routine?
Well, like for, let's say, a win back, trying to get a win back, or going into covering the renewal. I mean, I've always done my homework, check what they have, what they don't have, the win backs, trying out what they had before, why they left us. And with the win backs, I basically always tell them, okay, I'm Nancy, we had you before, and say, hey, Kay, what happened the last time? Why did you leave us? What was the reason?
Sure.
And then it opens them up, and they just talk and tell me why they got mad. I'm like, okay, why don't you give me the opportunity to requote you and see if I can address those needs or whatever happened at that time, and see if you can bring us, come back to Allstate, and we can start from there. Just kind of let them know. It's now, I'm not trying to pressure you for anything, but let's see what options you have now that at that time we didn't have them or weren't available, and that usually say, okay, let's try it, and then we go back and forth. A lot of times I feel like, getting to know them, what they're doing, and you have plans for the weekend, get them to laugh with me, and open up more to me as a person, not just a sales agent or trying to sell them something.
Sure.
And that's helped me. But as far as I always try to prepare myself what I'm going for. Try to do research on the person and family, or a lot of times I know them from before, or so trying to be prepared, and then ask more questions so they can answer and talk more to me. Not just this is my car and this and that, and just it's not like asking just question, answer, question, answer. Just trying to have a conversation with them as we're doing all the steps with the quote.
That's awesome. It sounds like you really are getting adept at shifting your focus, right? Shift the focus to them.
Right, yeah.
Right. And
you're trying to shift the focus to them and trying to get them to talk more to me, to open up and not just feel she wants to sell me something.
right? And as you get, it sort of all goes together, right? The steps all kind of blend together in that as you shift the focus, that helps you gain credibility and establish rapport, which we're going to be diving into here in a couple minutes. And then from the establishing rapport, we're diagnosing needs, which then goes back to establishing rapport, right? So they all build off each other, and that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anything else that you can think of?
No, not right now. That's all that. Like I said, I printed everything, and I'm just trying to see where we're going to start today, and then print the rest. So
perfect.
Me and my coworker Carmen. And another thing, my coworker also signed up for this, and she's been having trouble logging in. But I already talked to my agent, so he'll be getting a hold of you guys. But so right now we're sharing the phone and we're sharing the computer, and we also, both of us printed out up to, like I said, step 3, and been looking at that. So
perfect.
That's how we've been doing it for the last week and this week, because she's not able to log into the course on her computer.
Okay, we'll figure that out. That's probably an easy tech fix, so no big deal. Just shoot over something to support. But let's dive in. It looks like Neil's popped in. We're gonna get this going here. Neil, you there?
Yes. Hey everybody, good to be reconnected with you. Sorry, I was wrapping up with one of our consulting clients where we actually work and do this on site for them, and we were breaking down some of the tapes. My apologies. I understand Craig has got you up to speed. There were a lot of good learnings and takeaways from last week. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a couple of them come in and actually demonstrate how they've incorporated shift their focus and how they're have a preparation strategy. So great stuff.
Awesome. Well, great news. Well, let's dive right into it, guys. We've got a really big day today. Okay, we're focusing on the next 2 steps, which actually represent It's 65% of the sale are represented in these next 2 steps. So let's go ahead and re-ground ourselves in what it means to be a trusted advisor. So remember, a trusted advisor creates client relationships. Clients are under the care and guidance of an expert. They're under the care and guidance of a trusted advisor. And to be that trusted advisor, there's 7 steps to this. We learned preparation and the first step last week. I want to connect you with your platform where all of this exists. So you go to www.agencyvault.com, you log into My Library, and as LSPs, you're going to work specifically in your Sales Vault, right? The Sales Vault Trusted Advisor Framework. Here's where you have access to each of these 7 steps. So let's go ahead and just quickly bring up our framework. So we've got a table of contents, or a jumping off point, if you will. All right. So number 1, or the preparation, which we focused on last week, creating your desired outcomes, getting really, really clear on who you must be, and bringing the best possible you to create the outcomes that are most important to your client. When you create your client's most important outcomes, you will meet your most important outcomes. Shifting your focus is all about moving away from those preoccupations and maintaining focus on what matters most to them. Today, we're going to cover establishing rapport and diagnosing needs. Right? If you do, this is where the deal is won. This is where the magic happens. Next week, we'll work on building value and creating buy-in, and then we'll finish the series by overcoming objections and writing policies. So if you will, Craig, if you'll please make sure everybody has their handouts, we're going to go ahead and dive into what it means to and how to establish rapport. Right? 40% of the sale is based on establishing rapport. And how's the technology working, Craig? Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, we're good. I can see it, and the last time I asked, everybody raised their hands, so I think we're in good shape. Yeah, they're raising their hands. Everybody can see it.
Okay, awesome. So here we go. So establish rapport. So beyond being merely an intellectual or analytical connection, right? That is, oh, hey, what's the weather today where you are? Or I noticed on LinkedIn you're a Mets fan, right? Rapport is far more powerful and an important level of engagement with another person. It is critical to establishing the needs and levels of connection and openness and trust that we create as trusted advisor. Same thing we were talking about last week. It's no longer about coffee is for closers or this artificial rapport. Right? The number one things that you talked about as your challenges are selling on price, but also time pressures. They're like, I need this quote and I've only got 5 minutes, so don't waste your time in bullshit rapport. Excuse my French. We have to move past that. This is about creating connection, openness, and trust. So when you engage another person's sympathetic, empathetic nervous system, you can create a level of connection and openness that allows for a much higher level of trust, a deeper level of engagement, and ultimately a connection, a communication, right? So rapport is essential to your ability to connect with the other person in a strong, meaningful, and more than intellectual way. It's pivotal to building a strong, trusting relationship. That's why 40% of the sale is won here. But here's what's going to happen today. Through establishing rapport, I'm going to teach you the psychological skills and mechanisms to create that deep connection. And then Craig is going to take you through the questioning strategy called diagnosing needs. But here's the thing. We don't waste time. It's not a linear thing. It's not we get on the call, we ask them about the weather, we check the box for rapport, now we start asking questions. Rapport is built through that psychological question, but the value of rapport comes through the quality of the questions that you ask. So I want you to write this down. Before we get into your worksheet there, write this down. The quality of my questions creates the quality of my prospects' answers. It changes their focus. Right? So the rapport is established through the psychology of connection. So we cannot get to presenting a solution until we've established rapport. The quality of your questions, which Craig is going to take you through, will create the quality of your prospects' answers. That's what shifts their focus away from price to what ultimately matters most, the protection of their family and assets. All right, let's dive into the specifics around how we create rapport. All right, so first is the importance of rapport. All right, why is this? Okay, the importance of rapport. So the words themselves have less effect on communication than how they are spoken, the tone. Right? So you get this intellectually, but it's not what you're saying. Everybody wants to find like the money lines, the right words, but it's actually the tone and the body language that accompanies them, the body language. So to be perceived as confident and sincere, as well as to maximize the influence of what you say, it is important to have your words, tone, and body language congruent. So if you look at this pie chart here, words are only 7% of it. The next part is 38%, the vocal qualities. And the biggest part, 55%, is your body language. But guess what? The body language that you impart over the telephone is as important, if not more important, than it is in person. Because if it's 55% of the results and you're not in front of them, how do you get across that body language? So one way is to get a stand-up desk, to move around, to have a hands-free headset. If you guys don't even have to close your eyes, but if you were to close your eyes, you could feel me. You could feel my body language. You could feel my posture and certainty as I deliver this Jedi value to you. That's how confident am I. My body language is coming through loud and clear. So don't mistake and say, well, we're on a phone. No one can see my body language. You're cutting yourself off of more than 55% of what matters. So don't do that. All right, so let's go into some of the tonality here, or the 24 ways to establish rapport. So congruency of words, tone of voice, and body language all must to come together. That's how you be perceived as sincere and confident, as well as to maximize the impact of what you're saying. It's critically important to have that congruency across all three. So there are 24 ways to establish rapport. I want to go through them briefly with you. Here's how they work. Number one, in terms of voice, it's your tone, right? So the tone, right? I'm coming across with a certain cocksure. Remember cocksure? I hope everyone looked that up last week, but my tone is very cocksure. My tempo and rhythm is moving, it's flowing based on the ebb and flow of the conversation and really the points that I want to hit home with you. Pitch, right? It's not monotone. I'm not saying and doing the whole this way the whole hour, right? Who is going to check out when they're listening to me like that? But my pitch is fluctuating because I have passion, I have energy, I have emotion behind what I'm doing, what I'm delivering for you. Again, remember, your power is in your caring and your belief that you can help. I care so much about this. Craig cares so much about helping all of you. There's hundreds of people on this call. Break through and be the best possible LSPs you can be and deliver the most value. Inflection, right? We've been on this particular topic for 3.5 minutes. My voice has inflected so much across those 3 minutes. Volume, right? My volume is high, so you may be lowering your mic there, but again, that's my passion. One thing you do want to keep in mind, though, when you're working with a prospect, and it's bi-directional. So bi-directional means there's feedback. For me right now, it's just a silence, right? I mean, I just have no idea, but I know you guys are getting this. But in your calls, there's feedback, bi-directional feedback. You want to match your volume. So even if they're lower, if it's a woman, if her pace is more quiet, you want to match that pace, but you're still bringing a ton of passion because you can deliver that passion and care even at a lower volume. So you must match them. If they're talking lowly and I'm talking loud and driving the value like I am with you guys, it could really turn them off. All right, let's look into posture. Okay, so again, even though you're not in front of them, but certainly when you are in front of them, your head, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, your torso, your balance. Again, I just highly recommend that you get upright. Okay, you're coming from what's called a dominant or a leader posture. That head is up. That neck is focused on them, shoulders back, arms are moving, gestures are happening, because when your physiology is engaged, there's so much more energy that's coming towards them. Your torso, balance of your body, body language and movement, right? Facial expressions. Again, even though all of these things can't be seen over the telephone, they can be felt over the telephone, right? So what I want to invite you to do is get a small mirror, put it up next to your computer, and I want you to be looking at yourself while you're delivering value to your prospects and saying, is this the face and expressions of somebody who really cares about me? I mean, look at yourself. Would I be engaged in that? And do that, again, 21 days to create that, to create that habit. You want to do that and focus on that. So do that, get that mirror up in front of you. Body movements is related to that rhythm, right? You don't want to be pacing back and forth, but there's a rhythm to your movement when you're standing up. If you're forced to be in a chair, you've got to move. You must be hands-free so that you have hand movements and gestures. And again, the shoulders have got to be back. When we're stuck in that chair and we're hunched over a computer, that constricted, folded place is the place that your clients feel you coming from, instead of chest out, arms out, certain, cocksure, just driving it. All right, and then gestures. I mean, if you could see me, my gestures are just off the hook. That's how I roll. Legs, you want to engage your legs, your arms, every aspect of your body. All right, breathing. Again, this only plays into bidirectional feedback. I'm talking at you, so it's not at play here, but again, if we're to maintain congruency of words, tone of voice, body language, all these things, we've got to mirror and match their breathing, the depth, the fullness, the frequency, loudness. If they're quiet, if you hear and feel their breathing, you've got to slow down to match them. Sorry, this keynote is really acting up. Okay, so again, we've talked about building and keeping rapport being 40% of it. This goes back to your worksheet. People buy from people they like, right? So it doesn't matter the price, it doesn't matter the value. If they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you, right? People buy you before they buy our policies. They buy you. That's the number one piece to being a trusted advisor to your clients, is that they're buying you. They're buying a relationship with you. They're not going to worry about renewal 6 months from now because they know they're buying from you. There's a human being at the end of that line, and there's a whole agency behind you to support them. That's the place you must be coming from. Credibility consists of trust and knowledge. Trust and knowledge. So everything that we've done up until this point is all about building true credibility and gaining the prospect's trust. In a few minutes, when we shift here to diagnosing needs and certainly in creating buy-in and building value, they're going to start to get a feel for your knowledge. But again, you do not get into knowledge sharing until you've established rapport. It's happened. All right, building rapport allows you the privilege and the opportunity to enroll somebody, not closing them. It creates the privilege and the opportunity to enroll somebody. What are the steps for building rapport? You must educate them. So as we get into these later steps now of building value and creating buy-in for these folks, you must educate them. This is where you can use lines like, this is where my experience is of most value to you. That's what you guys are benefiting from here. My experience, my track record, Craig's experience, his track record. That creates the trust and framework for us to educate you. Use their name. Use their name, folks. Studies show that the number one thing that excites human being most is when they hear their name. Use their name. Do not overuse their name, though. Do not overuse their name, but be sure to use their name and use it strategically. Give them compliments. Give them compliments, but you've got to justify that compliment. You can't be like, oh, that was great, or great decision on that. You've got to articulate to them why. Maybe they do understand and actually have pretty comprehensive coverage with Geico, right? So congratulations for making a good, solid decision. In our experience, in our clients' experience, Geico is only focused on price. So I really honor you for getting deep and articulating to them what matters most about your coverage, the protection of your family. I would say 95% of you don't do that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. That's a justified compliment. Now it creates the framework to get into. Now, a shift that we could be looking at here is I want to be your trusted advisor. That's not something that Geico creates. If you give me a little breathing room, we can explore that. So again, not just compliments, but justified compliments. Ask leading questions. Ask leading questions. In a couple minutes here, we're going to turn to the questioning strategy. You're going to have access to scripts and frameworks that are all around leading questions. Make eye contact when they're in the office. Make eye contact. Again, I know this is going to sound silly, but for these next 21 days, when you have that mirror up, make eye contact with that prospect, baby. That's you. Make eye contact. Congratulate them instead of thanking them, right? Earlier you heard me congratulate him for making that decision. Congratulating is much more powerful. It's honoring that they made the decision, not, oh, thank you so much for going with us, or I'm just so grateful, parentheses, yes, I just got my commission. We don't thank people, we congratulate them. Pay attention using visual, auditory, and kinesthetic communication styles. We went over those at the beginning. Mirror and match. Meet them where they are. When you're in front of them, that's really easy to do. When you're on the phone, that's where breathing, tonality, volume come into play. If you're face-to-face with somebody, if they're in the office, okay, do not sit across from them. That's too dominant. Sit next to or across from them. Sit next to them. If it's in a conference room, or if you're in your agent's office, rather than sitting across the desk, go sit next to them. Ideally, you want to sit on their right. Why? Because psychologically, you've become their right-hand woman, right? You're on their right, and ideally you want to get your chair at a 45-degree angle. So you're not like craning your neck 90 degrees to look at it, but you're 45 degrees to them. Studies show being on the right at a 45-degree angle from them is the most certain posture you can take in providing them value. Right, bring up mutual interest, commonality, right? Not the weather. The weather isn't commonality, but if they're from your community, maybe they went to the same junior college, or they go to the same YMCA, that's cool. That's commonality. Those are some things that are similar. It's not inauthentic. Tell them a story. Give them an example, a case study, right? Or an example of, we use this all the time about that story of, somebody calling in for a claim and they don't understand why they didn't have the most coverage because they paid the lowest price, right? That's a human or pattern interrupt too. Humor or pattern interrupt. Give world-class service. At the end of the day, sales, most simplest translation, sales equals service. Your ability to serve this client's needs. Listen. That's the 80-20 rule. Listen more than you speak. Use a pattern interrupt. Actually, I just talked about that. That's the starting statement or joke. People laugh, but it also hits them right between the eyes around that story about getting the lowest price, not covering them in case of an accident or harm or death. It's a pattern interrupt, but that humor statement is kind of funny too. Use the principle of liking. Greg, I really like you. You seem like you got a good head on your shoulders. When we started, you were, price, and you didn't have enough time, but you gave me that breathing room. We've gotten to know each other. I'd like you for you to be my client, right? Wow. They're included. It's not like, oh, come sign with us. Right? I like you. I think you'd be a good client for us. Give them a gift, not a bribe, and definitely not that crap swag from Allstate, unless they're asking for it. Like, hey, do you have any Allstate swag, or I'm in need of a coffee mug, right? Let's not do that. That stuff is garbage. But gift, a compliment, something that you can congratulate them with. This is a biggie, right? If you were to remember, the number one thing is to use their name wherever possible. Wherever you feel compelled to say I, us, or we, or our approach is, use your. This is going to be of most benefit to you. This is where the value lies for you. What I understand is most important to you is protecting your family, protecting these hard-earned assets. So whatever you see, or if anywhere in a script that you have has I, us, we, or ours, remove it. Change that sentence to you or yours. Again, begin with the big picture outcome with emotional benefit, right?